Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Another GOP senator says he is a no vote on President Trump's big, beautiful bill in its current form, he said. I have the latest on where the bill presently stands. The Justice Department asked the Supreme Court yesterday to intervene and allow the government to enact deportations of a small group of major criminals, saying a lower judge is meddling in national security matters. And a leaked video shows former Vice President Kamala Harris warning that the state of the world is eerily similar to the 1930s. Alabama Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville yesterday announced he'll run for Alabama governor and leave the U.S. Senate. And Deputy Director Dan Bongino announced that the FBI is investigating potential public corruption in 3 well-known cases that include the D.C. pipe bombing probe, cocaine found at President Joe Biden's White House, and a leak of the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Yesterday, it was Senator Ron Johnson. Add another name to the list as Florida Republican Senator Rick Scott, that is, told Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk that he would not vote for President Donald Trump's House-passed one big, beautiful bill in its present form. Trump gave Senate Republicans permission to make some major changes to the bill on Sunday, as some GOP senators were warning that the package is dead on arrival without significant reforms. On the Charlie Kirk show yesterday, Senator Scott said he absolutely would vote against it without additional spending cuts.
So, Senator, would you say without any changes at its current composition, would you vote no?
Oh, absolutely, I'd vote no. This bill doesn't have it. If they brought it to the floor right now, there's not a chance it'll get the 51 votes it needs. So look. We all know we have to balance the budget. Look, we know that it's getting harder to sell our treasuries. We know interest rates are going up. We want to get interest rates down. We get inflation under control. That means balance the budget. Guess what? I did it every year I was governor. If these states supposedly balance their budgets, no, they balance their budget by doing the same thing the federal government does. They borrow money. I stopped that. I stopped the state borrowing more money every year, which had been doing for 40 years, and it paid off a third of the state debt while I was governor. So that's what we ought to be doing at the federal level. That's how we'll get interest rates down. That's how we'll get inflation under control. The poorest families in this state, in this country, are getting hurt by this massive inflation caused by reckless government spending. We're spending $2 trillion more than we take in. And we're taking in plenty of money. It's not like we don't have high enough taxes. We have way higher spending than we need.
And so Senator, that's a big statement, and we want to see it pass. What can then be done? Because our audience is like, wait a second, I thought it passed the House. Are you saying that the Senate can change it, and then there's a reconciliation between the House and the Senate? Is that correct?
Yeah, Charlie, we'll change it. We'll have our own bill, and what'll happen is it'll go back through a conference, or it'll just go back to the House, and they'll pass our bill. But I believe we're going to dramatically reduce mandatory spending to get this budget balanced in a short period of time, which is what we have to do. It's what we promised. I just went through my election just like President Trump did. We all promised we were going to balance the budget. We are going to set the process to quickly balance in this budget.
It's going to be another fight over in the Senate for sure. But can you blame him? I mean, isn't that what we kind of expect of GOP senators and the U.S. House of Representatives when we have a majority Republican, although a slim one, is that it's time to make some serious decisions, some hard decisions, but some necessary decisions. Kirk said that Scott's opposition to the current bill was a, quote, big statement. The host asked the senator what it would take to get the bill to pass and about the reconciliation process. Now, again, GOP Senators Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, Rand Paul of Kentucky are among some who are considered fiscal hawks, influencing the deliberation about spending deficit. Johnson also noted Republicans, Utah Senator Mike Lee and Scott as senators who are seeking further spending cuts in the bill. Johnson is advocating for the government to return to pre-pandemic spending levels, which would be a nearly $6 trillion reduction and calls the current bill completely unacceptable. While House Republicans felt pressured to accept the bill due to the upcoming 2026 midterm elections, some of the senators are saying, nope, not going to go. Not going to happen. Johnson told reporters in the House, President Trump can threaten a primary and those guys want to keep their seats. I understand the pressure. Can't pressure me that way, he said. I'm not going to vote for it without some minor tweaks. I think everybody's kind of happy talking and get together and pull together and got to do this and that. That's the way they're going to try to make it go, he said. Paul has said that he opposes the bill based on language that will increase the debt limit by $4 trillion over the next 2 years, something that President Trump has demanded. Paul said, I've told them that if they'll take the debt ceiling off of it, I'll consider voting for it. We've never, ever voted to raise the debt ceiling this much. It'll be a historic increase. I think it's not good for conservatives to be on a record supporting $4 trillion or $5 trillion increase in the debt ceiling. He has a point there too, doesn't he? I mean, as I said yesterday, and I was very clear, I can't argue with these guys. Yes, I support the president's program. But didn't we send a message to Washington last November that it was time to make some changes, some drastic changes? Texter Jennifer wrote on the text line, hey, Joey, just hearing your Tuesday morning podcast, and here's my idea. Go over to GSP, get on a plane to D.C., and maneuver yourself before the Senate and deliver that message that you delivered Tuesday morning. You nailed it. Go up there and deliver some Greer, South Carolina common sense to those conservatives in the Senate. Well, Jennifer, I don't know that they'd let me in the room, but thank you. I appreciate that kind note. But Jennifer's right. I mean, we got to get the message to them that, yes, we support President Trump. We elected him. But there's got to be some common sense in our spending. We can't just keep pretending that we can spend nonstop. We can't keep raising our debt ceiling. We got to balance the budget, and we got to reduce spending. There's some programs that are just going to have to go away. Now, you know, I've been reading all the talk about Medicaid and about SNAPs. And one headline was 30 million SNAP meals will be eliminated under the plan. What they don't tell you is that the 30 million that will be eliminated are 30 million to people who don't deserve SNAP to begin with. They don't qualify for SNAP. They have an income. They're working. They can buy their own food. We don't have to buy it for them. It's just like Medicaid. You know, they're screaming and yelling that, well, you know, people are going to lose their Medicaid. Well, yes, some people are because they shouldn't be on it to begin with, right? I mean, at what point do we say enough is enough? It's time to dig in a little deeper and cut the waste, cut the fraud. I mean, cut all those people who are receiving Medicaid benefits, people who should be working, are able to work, they're just too dang lazy to. It's time to cut them off. And yes, let the headlines say 30 million, 40 million, 50 million people lost their Medicaid benefits. It's because they shouldn't be getting them to begin with. At what point can people wake up and understand that? We have to change our way of government, and we got to do it now. We may never get another chance to do it. We got to start the ball rolling, and now is the time. Now, honestly, I don't quite understand at times why President Trump wants the debt ceiling raised. I don't get that. Maybe some of you can help me understand that. If you understand, text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639, because I truly don't understand it. I'd love to be able to sit down with the president, just talk with him about it. Probably won't ever get that opportunity, though. Glad to have you on this Wednesday. We got a lot to cover today. Are you ready for this? I dropped over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan. No Ozempic, no shots, no meds. Look, I refuse to rely on prescriptions for life, and you probably feel the same. Joey Hudson here. Here's what Big Pharma won't tell you. Your body already makes GLP-1. That's the hormone that fights hunger. PhD helps your body produce it naturally, faster, and without side effects. With PhD, there's no muscle loss, no rebound weight gain, and no cravings. Just real, lasting weight loss the natural way. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. It takes 5 minutes and shows what's really happening inside your body. You'll walk out knowing how to flip your fat-burning switch. No shots needed. Don't trade your health for a quick fix. You can do this without Big Pharma and without the drugs. Plus 15% off when you fully commit to your program and the PhD Get Results Guarantee. Call now, 864-644-1900. Start today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. In immigration news today, here's a story that's going to kind of probably leave you shaking your head if you still believe America should be a country that protects its people first. The Biden-appointed Judge Brian Murphy, a federal judge, just told the U.S. government that it can't deport convicted murderers and child rapists to South Sudan because they didn't get enough time to object. Now, they're going to object. You can count on that. You heard that right. We're talking about a Laotian man who murdered a German tourist, a Mexican gang member who stabbed his roommate to death, and a Myanmar national who sexually assaulted a little girl repeatedly starting when she was 7 years old. These are not asylum seekers. These are not dreamers. These are violent, convicted felons with final deportation orders. But now, a federal judge says we have to keep them here in the U.S. because they didn't get enough time, less than 24 hours, to say they might be afraid of torture if deported. So what does the Trump administration do? They take it straight to the Supreme Court. Solicitor General D. John Sawyer told the justices on Tuesday that this judge is wreaking havoc on the immigration system. He said, and I quote, "The Due Process Clause does not give such aliens a constitutional entitlement to any extra removal procedures beyond what the political branches have provided." Translation, the law already spells this out. Congress gave the president authority to make these calls, especially in national security cases. This judge just made up new rules out of thin air, like they often do. And here's what's worse. The home countries for many of these criminals, they don't want them back. Shocker, huh? You surprised, aren't you? So what does our government do? It finds third countries willing to take them and moves quickly. Because if they don't, we're forced to release these predators back into our streets. You know who should be objecting? The American people. Not because of a 24-hour window, because of our own system that is broken, that criminals sentenced to deportation end up back in our neighborhoods because a judge says they didn't get enough time to fill out a feelings form. We didn't do a poll or a survey to find out how they were feeling about going back to their home country. What might happen to them if they're sent back to their home country? So let me ask you this. Do the victims get a warning before these criminals are let loose? Did that 7-year-old girl get a second chance before her abuser was allowed to continue? Did that German tourist get a do-over? No, they didn't. But now, because of Judge Murphy, because he thinks deporting these monsters without an extra layer of red tape might offend their civil liberties, we have to keep them here a little while longer. No way. This isn't compassion. This is just downright insanity, folks. And look, let's be clear. The Trump administration is not targeting dreamers or DACA kids here. This is about convicted, violent criminals with no right to remain in this country. No legal basis to challenge deportation. Their cases are closed. This isn't the end of the road, or at least it should be. But the judge is rewriting the law on the fly. And that's why the Supreme Court now has to step in and clean up this mess once and for all. Here's what our message to justices should be. Do your job. Back the rule of law, as you promised you would do when you were sworn into your position. Support the Constitution. It's just that simple. And let President Trump deport these criminals before more innocent people suffer. We're going to be watching this one because if the court sides with Judge Murphy, every illegal immigrant with a violent felony will be told, congratulations, the clock just got reset on your deportation. You're staying in America for a while longer. You won the lottery. That's not justice, folks. That's not safety. And it sure isn't sane either. It's just downright stupid. Here's a follow-up story to a story I talked with you about just a few days ago. It's about California, once again, the epicenter of a cultural and political firestorm. This time, it's not over taxes or crime or even another Gavin Newsom press stunt. This time, it's about a high school girl, a championship title, and a system that refuses to protect female athletes. It's a continuation of the story I talked with you about earlier. Katie McGinnis, she's a senior at La Canada High School. A real athlete. She's disciplined, she's competitive, she's talented, and like so many girls around this country, she's worked years for this moment. The California State Championship in track and field. She earned her spot in the long jump finals. She jumped over 18 feet. She has put in the work all these years, but there's one problem. She's still not competing on a level playing field. Why? Because a biological male, a trans-identifying athlete from Jurupa Valley, California, is also competing in the girls' division. And not just competing, dominating, winning long jump, winning the triple jump, beating out biological girls all postseason long, including Katie earlier. And now, heading into the state championship this week, a once-in-a-lifetime situation for a lot of these senior girls. The question isn't who's the best female athlete. The question is, does fairness still exist in women's sports at all? President Trump saw this. It's got his attention, and he's trying to step in. In a true social post, he called out California. The president called out Gavin Newsom, and he even said that he's considering sending in federal authorities to intervene if a biological male competes in a girls' championship event. Now, you may say that's kind of dramatic for the president to get involved in a girls' track meet. But tell that to the girls who trained their whole lives for this moment, only to be pushed out by someone with a biological advantage they simply cannot overcome. The California Interscholastic Federation, the CIF, is scrambling to respond. At the last minute, they've announced a rule tweak yesterday. They said they'll let some of the girls who were bumped out by the trans athlete back in to compete. That's their idea of fixing this. But the McGinnis family, they're not buying it. And you know what? I'm not sure I do either. They released a statement saying loud and clear, this is the McGinnis family, this isn't good enough. It's still an unfair competition and an injustice to the girls competing, and I say amen to that. Katie herself has spoken out, not with hate, not with bigotry, but with truth and grace. She said she doesn't hate the athlete or the trans community, but she can't ignore the obvious. She said there are just certain genetic advantages that biological males have that biological girls don't. Frankly, I just can't stand for that, she said. And that's the heart of it. We're not talking about banning people from sports. We're talking about protecting girls' sports. We're talking about Title IX, a law passed to ensure equal opportunity for women, not to turn girls into political collateral. Now, let me ask you, where's the outrage from the so-called champions of women's rights? Where's the corporate media? Where's the feminist left? Crickets, nothing. You haven't heard from them, have you? El Zappo. Instead, we get Gavin Newsom, the king of gaslighting, going on a podcast and saying, well, I agree it's unfair, but we also need grace. And suicide rates and anxiety. He's talking about all these problems that the trans community has. Well, hey, look, I say let's take care of the trans community. Let's talk with these young people about suicide, about anxiety. But we got to be honest with them. And you can't allow them to wreak havoc in young women's sports. What about the young girls who have worked their whole lives to get here? You don't get to invoke grace while you look the other way as biological boys beat girls out of their own sports. You don't get to pretend that you're compassionate when you're ignoring real teenage girls with real dreams, real training, and real heartbreak. Katie McGinnis is not a prop. She's not an obstacle. She's a young woman trying to compete with integrity, and when she says, I was discouraged, I did everything I could, and it wasn't enough, that should break every parent's heart in America. That should get everyone's attention. We should all be rallying around these young girls and demanding that these boys are kicked out of girls' sports. Let's be clear here. This isn't progress. This is erasing decades of fighting for young girls to have their place in sports, to have equality in sports. That's what Title IX was all about. We don't fix injustice by creating new ones. And no amount of legislation, no last-minute rule change, no political tap dance can change the simple fact. Boys and girls are not the same, especially in competitive athletics. If California wants to let this continue, fine. But don't act surprised when families leave the state, when girls stop participating, and when the trust in school sports collapses. Or maybe when Donald Trump cancels some of your federal funding because of it. That's exactly what the president needs to do. He needs to stand up for women's sports. A leaked video shows former Vice President Kamala Harris warning that the state of the world is eerily similar to the 1930s, she said. In a rare appearance since leaving the White House, videos have surfaced of Harris at a Q&A during the 2025 Australian Real Estate Conference. Toward the end of the question and answer period, the host noted his admiration for former President Barack Obama, and he asked Harris what has made him so successful. She said, I think one of the very special aspects of who he is he really is a student of history, and that gets back to my earlier point about, for each of us, understanding the context in which we exist, she said. The footage that was leaked online has the former vice president arguing, as a student of history herself, that the world's current state echoes one of the darkest parts of the 20th century.
I do worry, frankly, about what's happening right now in our world. I do worry that it is important that we remember history. It's important we remember the 1930s. It's important that we remember that history has taught us that isolation does not equal insulation. It is important that we understand and remember history, which taught us the interdependence and interconnection between nations. History that has taught us the importance of relationships of trust, the importance of friendships, integrity, honesty.
As I said, I think your best work is ahead of you for sure, 100%.
I am unemployed right now. You know, I must speak truth.
Isn't she funny? Now, that was just a blurb of the overall clip that was leaked, and the exchange is obviously a shot at President Donald Trump. And while the event was closed to the press and not televised, there's been a number of various clips from the session that have been leaked online by attendees. She just keeps at it, doesn't she? She won't go away. Kind of like Hillary Clinton. Broadway veteran Patti LuPone lashed out at President Trump for his overhaul of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C., and called for the building to, you ready, get blown up. This was an interview published on Monday of this week. Now, here's the backstory. You may recall, in February, President Trump fired several Kennedy Center board members, including the president and chairman, and replaced them with pro-Trump figures who then named the president as chairman. In a post to Truth Social announcing the changes, Trump vowed to make the Performing Arts Center great again by removing board members who did not share his administration's vision for a golden age in arts and culture. Trump said that the drag shows targeting children were one example of programming at the Kennedy Center that would end under his leadership. His actions created some backlash, as you can imagine, in the theater world and the film world, with multiple artists resigning from their roles or canceling upcoming performances at the Kennedy Center. Now, Lupone slammed the Trump takeover, and in new comments to the New Yorker, talking to Michael Schulman, said she's even angry at the rest of the country. She told me, this is Schulman talking about Lupone, she told me more than once that the Trumpified Kennedy Center should get blown up. Now, is that not a threat to damage a national center like this? I mean, don't people usually get investigated, even arrested, for suggesting that a building be destroyed simply because they don't like what the president's doing? Lupone also told the outlet that she wished that the Trump administration would leave New York alone. Now, she's been an outspoken critic of Trump for years. Ahead of the 2020 election, Lupone said that she was considering moving to Ireland if Trump won. Well, he didn't win then, but he did win in 2024, so are you still going to move to Ireland? Why are you still here, Ms. Lupone? On the Tony Awards red carpet in 2017, she said that she would not perform if he came to one of her shows because I hate the mother you-know-what. Richard Grinnell, president of the Kennedy Center now, slammed Lupone's comments in a statement to Fox News Digital. He said, the far left has morphed into violent extremists. This is completely unacceptable from the same people who claim to be for tolerance and diversity. Everyone should condemn these radicals, he said. Lupone did not respond to a request for comment, of course. White House Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly said President Trump cares deeply about American arts and culture, which is why he is revitalizing historic institutions like the Kennedy Center to their former greatness. According to the Columbia, South Carolina Police Department, an 18-year-old who went missing after he left home to return to the school, to the University of South Carolina for school, has been found dead. Donovan Dempsey. His father previously told WYFF News that the last time he spoke to his son was on May 8th. Donovan was in an Uber and told his father that he was going to his girlfriend's house in Spartanburg in the upstate of South Carolina. According to Donovan's Uber account, he took the Uber to Columbia instead. Columbia Police Department on Tuesday said that CPD said a body found in the Congaree River over the Memorial Weekend has been identified as young Donovan. Police say no foul play is suspected. Shortly after his disappearance, Donovan's family said he had been struggling since his mom died a couple of years ago. So sad day with this family. Maybe a little tougher holding on to the Senate majority as Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville announced yesterday that he will not be returning to the Senate, that he will be running for Alabama governor. Tuberville is a top Senate supporter and ally of President Donald Trump. He launched a campaign website that promotes his conservative Alabama values, and the senator made his first appearance after announcing his candidacy on the Will Cain Show on Fox News. He said, I'm doing this to help this country and the great state of Alabama. I'm a football coach. I'm a leader. I'm a builder. I'm a recruiter, and we're going to grow Alabama. Now, look, he'll probably win the governor's mansion, but we got to be sure that we maintain that Senate seat as well. We got to. That's a key component of us holding on to our majority. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. So does this surprise you? Newsflash. NPR and several Colorado public radio stations have announced that they are suing the Trump administration in federal court over an executive order seeking to cease all federal funding to NPR and PBS. Are you surprised? Here's the story. As you probably know, President Trump signed an executive order earlier this month instructing the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and other federal agencies to cease federal funding for NPR and other public media outlets. NPR has vowed to challenge the order by all means available, and CEO Catherine Mayer took action. Mayer said in a lengthy statement, quote, "The executive order is a clear violation of the Constitution and the First Amendment's protections for freedom of speech and association and freedom of the press. It is an affront to the rights of NPR and NPR's 246 member stations, which are locally owned, nonprofit, non-commercial media organizations serving all 50 states and territories. Today, we challenge its constitutionality in the nation's independent courts. Public media was established to inform the American public and uphold American democratic values," she said. The president's executive order is directly counter to Congress's long-standing intent, as expressed in the Public Broadcasting Act, to foster vibrant institutions that achieve that mission, serving all Americans independent of political influence. Now, yesterday, Ms. Mayer appeared on Face the Nation to claim that their reporting of the news is never biased and that they serve all Americans.
I want to ask you about the news. When we went and we read the executive order, the language in there says government funding of news media in this environment is outdated and unnecessary, corrosive to the appearance of independence. And Americans have the right to expect if their tax dollars fund public broadcasting that it's fair, accurate, unbiased, and nonpartisan. How do you respond to the implication that your news coverage is not fair and nonpartisan?
I think
unbiased.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's important to note that I'm the CEO and we have an independent editor-in-chief who oversees the newsroom, and so I don't make editorial decisions, and that I think is just always an important point to make. But I think our newsroom would really take issue with that. We have been on air for more than 50 years. We've been covering news as it occurs across the nation, in local communities, overseas. We have an extraordinary Washington desk, and our people report straight down the line, and I think that not only do they do that, they do so with a mission that very few other broadcast organizations have, which is a requirement to serve the entire public. That is the point of public broadcasting, is we bring people together in those conversations. And so we've had a whole host of conservative voices on air of late. We've been making requests of the Trump administration to have their officials on air. We would like to see more people accept those invitations. It's hard for us to be able to say we can speak for everyone when folks won't join us.
All right, so let's break that down. Is there anyone who is hearing my voice right now, if you're listening, do you think NPR is offering the so-called fair and balanced coverage that Ms. Mayer seems to think her organization is providing? Does anybody think that? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. I want to hear from you. Now, the lawsuit names the White House Budget Director, Russell Vought, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and National Endowment for the Arts Chair Mario Rosario Jackson as defendants, along with President Trump, of course. Colorado Public Radio, Aspen Public Radio, and KSUT joined the suit that calls Trump's executive order unlawful in multiple ways. Mayer said that the order threatens the existence of the public broadcasting system upon which tens of millions of Americans rely for vital news, information, and emergency alerts. She goes on to talk about the fact that it was established back in 1967 when the Congress established the Public Broadcasting Act. Now, there's the key. 1967. When the Congress passed the Public Broadcasting Act, we didn't have all the media options we have now. Don't you think public broadcasting has outlived its usefulness? We have so many options now, and most are free, just like NPR. But they don't have the benefit of federal tax dollars to survive. If NPR is so essential, if they're providing this great news service, they can survive without our tax funds, don't you think? Their listeners, their viewers will all support them, right? Mayer said that Trump has repeatedly expressed his disapproval of editorial decisions reflected in programming offered by NPR and PBS and disparaged NPR's news and other content as left-wing propaganda. If the shoe fits, wear it, right? She says this is retaliatory, viewpoint-based discrimination in violation of the First Amendment. The Supreme Court has ruled numerous times over the past 80 years that the government does not have the right to determine what counts as bias. She continued, NPR will never agree to this infringement of our constitutional rights or the constitutional rights of our member stations, and NPR will not compromise our commitment to an independent free press. You know, here's the irony of this. NPR is taking our tax dollars that they've been given in order to sue our government. Again, I ask you, do you believe that NPR is essential? Do you believe that if NPR goes away tomorrow, that you're going to not get the news? Do you believe that NPR really reports the news in an unbiased fashion? I don't think the president is saying they don't have the right to free speech. Mayer goes on to talk about the First Amendment right to free from government attempts to control private speech. Well, look, President Trump isn't trying to control the speech. He's just saying that it's time that our tax dollars aren't used to support these organizations. Let them survive on their own like most other media companies do. Most media companies don't have the luxury of public funds, and nor should they. Again, if you're providing such a great service, if your listeners, if your viewers love what you're doing, then ask them for a donation. Ask them to, well, actually, I guess they can't buy advertising. Well, I guess they can buy advertising on it. I don't know. But let your listeners support you. Let your listeners continue to make those donations or however they can get money in your hands to continue your service. If you're that essential, it'll happen. If you're not, then we know what will happen. Ms. Mayer contends that NPR is a nonpartisan news organization that adheres to and upholds the highest standards of public service in journalism, and she says they ensure the integrity of its reporting through multiple rigorous safeguards. She says we stand for constitutional rights, a free press, and an informed public, and we file today on their behalf. Well, don't file on my behalf because I don't care if you exist or you don't exist, because I take issue with the idea that you offer nonpartisan news. But I guess the courts will decide. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.